Lapis is a composite stone. It's made of lazurite and inclusions of calcite and pyrite and very trace of other minerals. I only have a few shards left around the house because it's very sought after in goddess pendants. But as you can see, these ones have a lot of inclusions and not so much lazurite. It is to be said that the less inclusions and the more uniform the color of lazurite, the more valuable the lapis is. So the more uniform blue and with uniformly distributed specks of pyrite, the more valuable it is. We shall do a relatively not so valuable one in this, and for this I'm going to use the Pardo jewelry clay with just 2 of the Pardo art clay, and I'm going to show you exactly what I am going to use for what. Now we have 2 different sets of colors, and that would be the blue for the lazurite and then the colors for the calcite inclusions. For the calcite inclusions I'm using transparent translucent and white of the art clay, and then from the jewelry clay I'm using the gray jasper and then blue crystal, lapislazuli and covellite of the jewelry clay for the blue. Now I'm going to tell you, if you did not watch yet my tutorial on how to condition Pardo, please do so, because Pardo is to be conditioned very differently than other clays. And even if I'm going to tell you in a second something that will probably blow you away, but even if we are not going to condition much here, you need to know how to condition, because we are going to mix the part for the calcite inclusions. As you can see, I am taking a larger amount of the lapis color, which obviously that's why it's called lapis, and then a little bit of blue crystal, and about, I have the covellite in bowls as well as in bricks, so I'm going to get about half a ball of covellite. And you will see in my Pardo how to condition Pardo, you need to condition it always on a very thin slice. Never try to condition Pardo on thick slices, because it's going to crumble and you're going to get frustrated. You're going to believe it's old clay. No. Pardo conditions differently because it's beeswax based. It's not like the other clays. So I am getting about half a bowl of gray jasper, and then a little bit of white. As you can see, about 2, maybe 2.5 1mm slices of white, and double the amount of translucent transparent. Now I conditioned my translucent transparent white and jasper, and I'm going to mix half of the transparent with about 2/3 of the jasper, and then everything else that's left together, so I can have a lighter color for the calcite and a darker color that would be for calcite with trace of other minerals. Now for a better crumbling and mincing, the best is to not condition at all the blue colors, because you need to actually mince them exceptionally fine. So first mince every color separately, but as I said, mince it to the point that you have those little crumbs, if possible smaller than 1mm. Then start mixing first all 3 blues together, and then divide your lapis in 2. Half of it mix it with what's left of the blue crystal and half with what's left of the covellite. And now mincing and tossing, make sure that you get a good mix in each of your 3 piles. Now let's start mixing the inclusions. First of all, make a mix of the two inclusion colors. And again, by mixing and tossing, make sure that they are well mixed. And once again, you need to get little crumbs that would be smaller than 1 millimeter if you want a good realism. And then we are going to mix in most of our blue mixes some of the inclusions. You can put in some more inclusions, in some less inclusions, because the inclusions in lapis are very, very random. You can also make the mix that is the lightest with more translucent. Just add less white and jasper, because I just didn't want to make too many mixes to confuse you. This will work just fine, but if you want to have areas of more inclusion, then you should make it a little bit more translucenty. But remember, the more inclusions, the less valuable the lapis is. So as you can see, I put a little bit of the mixed inclusions in my 3 blues mix. Then I am taking another piece of my 3 blues mix, and I'm going to mix it with some of the darker inclusions and just get bits and pieces of my other piles and make random piles with various proportions between the inclusions and the blues. And that is your only worry, that you do miss very, very, very fine. And that's why you didn't condition, because the less conditioned the clay is, the easier it will be for you to mince without having the crumbs sticking to each other, because you do not want them to stick to each other until you're ready to put your stack together. Now when it comes to the lapis with a lot of inclusions, the less valuable the lapis, the more it is used more for objet d'art, decorations, pens, trays, you name it. The more valuable, of course, it will be more used for jewelry. It was the favorite stone of the pharaohs, and if you are curious and you want to look at some real ancient pharaoh jewelry, the museum in Cairo has a lot of photos on the discoveries in the tombs, and especially in the Tutankhamun tomb. And it is to be noted that they were also obtaining a type of enamel, if you want, paint, metal paint, by grinding the lapis into a beautiful blue color. And if you look at the Tutankhamun's death mask, it has that. Now let's start putting together our stack. Just place your piles one after the other to imitate the way that the inclusions would be among the lazurite. And now it is time to put the fake faux pyrite. I'm going to use here the Indigo Blu Eton Mess, because the pyrite is not really golden. It might have sometimes goldish hues, and that is what misleads some to put gold when they are trying to imitate the turquoise, when it's actually about either copper or pyrite inclusions. So in this specific mix of the indigo blue, the flakes of gold are a very pale gold. So this is what you want to use, not the regular gold that is too yellow. You want a pale gold. And just place a few flakes. You don't have to have a ton of them. And no, glitter doesn't work very good, because the pyrite inclusions are not, all the pieces are not equal, and if you use glitter, all your sparks will be exactly the same. So, and you put the metal foil only now, because if you try to put it earlier, then it will be minced to smithereens and you won't be able to see it properly. So just do a little bit more mincing, so that you would mince some of the foil, but you don't want to get too small pieces. So just a little bit to make sure that you minced some of the foil and it is well mixed among the crumbs of polymer clay. And then you can start actually putting your stack together. And for this you simply press, but it's kind of like with the faux jade. You need to simply press, make sure that you don't make the pieces smudge into each other and mix into each other. You see that I pressed them some, and now I'm going to mix a little bit more just to avoid the existence of actually mixing the colors together. I turned the camera a little bit lighter in the settings so you can see better exactly what I'm doing. So you see, every time I am pressing the crumbs together, I will go back and I will do a little bit more mincing so that I can be sure that I don't get smudging between the crumbs, because that's not how stone works. It doesn't smudge a color into the other. So once you got to your approximate size of the stack, then you can start gently forming it together, and I'm going to use my acrylic block for that, because you can use the faux lapis as a veneer, but generally speaking most of the lapis jewelry is not, especially the one with inclusions, is not made into cabochons, but mostly into little plates, little slices if you want. And the other thing to note about the lapis, it is a fairly hard stone. It's about at the middle on the Mohs scale. It goes from 5 to 5.5. So once it is nicely polished, it will have a very glassy appearance. So here, yes, we can go sanding and buffing to our heart's delight, because it's not like with the turquoise, where it wouldn't be a good idea to buff it too much, because turquoise is only about a 2 on the Mohs scale, and unless it is severely treated or dyed and fake turquoise, it will not be very shiny. But with lapis you can make it very shiny. So I'm going to use those little cutters. I actually change the shape of some round ones because I found myself with 2 round cutter sets. So let's cut some slices that would be of about the same thickness, so we don't have to manipulate the slice too much, so we wouldn't get the deformation of all that random pattern we took so much trouble to achieve. And then I'm going to use a cling wrap to burnish it really good. Again, I'm going to give you the same advice when it comes to perfect burnishing and to perfect edges. Yeah, take some trouble to do it, but remember, low grit sandpaper cuts into polymer clay like there's no tomorrow. So instead of wasting half an hour to get something perfect while the clay is raw, it will take you only a few minutes to just sand it with like a 180 or 240, and then go gradually, like increasing like anywhere between 200 and 400 grits, not more than that, to remove the scratches of the lower grits until you get to at least a 1000 or 1500. I normally go up to 2000. I find that that is enough for a nice shine. Sometimes I would go up to 3000. But as you can see, I am using also the cling wrap to cut the shapes, so I would have a nice beveled, rounded edges to my pieces. And I will prepare this because we are going to make some earrings and a bracelet. So I am preparing this to be put on a bracelet as flat cabochons. And yeah, I do have those GF Art cutters that are about this shape, but I prefer the metal ones because you can bake and they cut much better to begin with. So I got the shape for the bracelet, and I'm going to bake them on a jar, so they would be baked in a rounded shape, so they would fit perfectly on the bracelet when I make the bracelet. And now with all those remnants, we are going to make some flat plaque earrings. And this is the beauty when you're working with faux lapis, because you can use very easily all those little leftovers. Yeah, I am doing a little bit of finishing on those edges, but not too much. As I said, sanding does the whole deal. But the way to reuse all your scraps is to simply remince and just put them together, and you'll get some new lapis, faux lapis, that you can make into beads, for example. But I'm going, as I said, to make some simple flat rectangular earrings because it will give more in terms of looking realistic, because yeah, you can make some huge earrings out of this, but remember one thing, stone is heavy. So those, if they were real, they would really hang on your earlobes. And here we go, it's baked, sanded and buffed, and I have put there some of those chips of lapis that I still have. Now remember, they are not very good quality, and definitely the faux one will be more valuable if it were real. But there we go, we shall make a jewelry set soon, and I will post this in Premo as well. Happy claying!